I remember the day like it was yesterday. It was a chilly November afternoon, the kind where the wind howls through the trees and the sky is forever locked in a state of near twilight. My name is David, and what I am about to share still sends shivers down my spine. It happened 10 years ago, but no matter how much time passes, I can never shake the feeling of dread that follows me like a shadow. I was in college at the time, a student at a small university nestled in the heart of the Midwest. My best friend Mark and I decided to take a short trip to his family's old cabin, deep in the woods of northern Michigan. The place had been abandoned for years, ever since Mark's grandfather passed away, and Mark wanted to check if it was still in decent condition. We planned to spend the weekend there, just the two of us, away from the stress of finals and the constant noise of campus life. The drive up was uneventful. The further we got from civilization, the more the trees seemed to close in on us, their branches reaching like skeletal fingers towards the sky. The cabin was exactly what you'd expect, old, creaky, and covered in a thin layer of dust. But it had a certain charm to it, a warmth that made it feel like home, despite the fact that no one had lived there in years. That first night, we built a fire and sat outside, drinking cheap beer and reminiscing about the past. The stars were brighter than I had ever seen them, the kind of brilliance you only witness when you're miles away from any city. It was peaceful, but that peace didn't last long. At around midnight, I heard it, a faint rustling in the woods behind the cabin. At first, I brushed it off as an animal, maybe a raccoon or a deer. But then the rustling grew louder, more deliberate. Footsteps, slow, methodical footsteps crunching through the fallen leaves. Mark heard it too. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it toward the tree line. But there was nothing, just darkness. Probably just an animal, he muttered, but I could hear the uncertainty in his voice. We went back inside, locking the doors behind us. But sleep didn't come easy. Every creak of the wooden cabin sent a jolt of paranoia through my veins. And then, around 3 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Not a frantic knock, not the kind of knocking someone does when they need help. It was slow, rhythmic. 3 knocks, a pause, 3 more knocks. Mark and I stared at each other, frozen in place. "No way," I whispered. Mark, trying to act brave, crept toward the door and peered through the peephole, his face drained of color. "No one's there," he whispered. But the knocking continued. We didn't sleep that night. We sat in silence, gripping the hunting knives we found in the kitchen, waiting for anything to happen. But the knocking stopped just before dawn. The next day, we searched the perimeter of the cabin. There were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been there. But something felt off. The air was heavy, charged with something I couldn't quite explain. We debated leaving, but Mark was stubborn. "It's just some prankster," he said. "Let's not overreact." That night, we barricaded the door. But at exactly 3 a.m., the knocking started again. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. A pause. 3 more knocks. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed the flashlight and yanked the door open. But again, nothing. Just the cold night air and the endless darkness beyond the trees. Then, just as I was about to close the door, I saw it. A figure, standing at the edge of the woods, just barely visible in the dim light. It was tall, impossibly tall, with elongated limbs that seemed to stretch unnaturally. Its face was obscured, but I could feel it staring at me. That was enough. "We're leaving," I told Mark, my voice shaking. We packed our things in record time and sped away from that cabin, our hearts pounding in our chests. We didn't stop until we reached the nearest gas station, where we sat in the car for nearly an hour, trying to process what had just happened. Mark never talked about that night again, and neither did I. But sometimes when I'm alone, I still hear it. The knocking. 3 slow, Deliberate knocks. A pause. 3 more knocks. And I wonder, did we really escape that night? Or is it still out there, waiting for me to return?
Thanks for watching and listening. Don't forget to subscribe.